What's up, homies? Welcome back to another very fun, very exciting discussion about The Mandalorian. We just finished the season 2 finale. If you have not watched those reaction videos, check those out. We also did launch a Patreon as well. You can check that out, where we're going to be providing uncut episodes of every single reaction that we did to Mandalorian season 2. Those are going to be going up as well. And also, if this is your first time here, welcome. If you like the video, if you haven't already, subscribe as well. We're going to be doing all kinds of fun stuff throughout the year. We haven't technically announced the next thing that we're going to be reacting to. We'll get to that in another video. I do want us to spend a little bit of time here talking about The Mandalorian and kind of wrapping out our thoughts on season 2 and what we thought about overall of the season 2 finale on top of the season in general. And Jon Favreau went on Good Morning America and double confirmed that they were in fact doing the Book of Boba Fett. We got an announcement that Robert Rodriguez will be joining as an executive producer.
Hold up.
Yeah.
That is some delicious excellence. I just wanted to
1,000% excellence.
I just wanted to acknowledge that excellence that we're about to be gifted with.
I know.
Wait.
I'm very excited to have Robert Rodriguez in the Star Wars universe in an official capacity like that. We also did get a little bit of a confirmation as to like how these shows were going to roll out, because I think a lot of people, when it was announced that it was coming in December 2021, people were like, okay, but how is that? Are we going to now release 2 Star Wars shows a week? How is it going to overlap with The Mandalorian? Because like we know, with kind of all of the shows that Filoni and Favreau are exec producing, Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, The Book of Boba Fett, and The Mandalorian, they all take place within the same time frame. They're all kind of overlapping a little bit. So I think a lot of people were wondering, like, okay, when does Boba Fett drop? Or when does Mando drop? Sounds like we're actually going to be waiting to get season 3 of The Mandalorian after the Book of Boba Fett. In the Good Morning America video, he talks about how right now they're basically going into production on the Book of Boba Fett, and once that wraps up, they will then shift over to The Mandalorian season 3, which I was a little surprised by. I wasn't expecting to have a break from The Mandalorian. I guess that's one way to like make us be that much more excited to have that show return. I feel
like it's kind of like the Marvel formula, right? It's like you put out a movie and, like, for example, Doctor Strange now is going to go, it's going from 2016 until 2022.
Yeah.
That is the distance between each of these movies, which I think is the longest gap between 2 movies in a series.
Yeah, 6 years is quite a bit.
Yeah.
But of course, he is weaving throughout the Avengers films, and he's cameoing in Thor and whatever. And I think it's a smart approach because it gives everybody involved that extra breathing room. I'm hoping that, as Favreau said, they're in pre-production on Mando season 3 right now, as they're into production on Boba Fett. And Filoni is writing Ahsoka, and they're also doing the Rangers show. I'm hoping that they're looking at how everybody's reacting to Mandalorian, and not in a, oh, we have no idea what we're doing, so just give us ideas, and like we'll go to Reddit and we'll, what are people's theories? I don't want that, but I really hope that they're looking at like what like critics are saying, what fans are saying, what the discussion is about, and the sort of, what I'm getting at is, I hope that they know that the core of the show, for so many people, myself included, is like it's Din and Grogu, it's Mando and Baby Yoda. Don't just do season 3 like, okay, no more Baby Yoda. That can't be it. There's more story to tell there. I know a lot of people that saw the finale and they're like, well, why should I keep watching now? The show doesn't have Baby Yoda in it. I'm not going to keep watching. And I was like, hold up. They have to know what that is. And if their plan for Mando season 3 was like, all right, he's finally freed from the stinking baby, now he can be a real Mandalorian. I hope they're seeing everybody respond and being like, let's go back, let's rework the story. But I'm sure that it's going to be that, because they set up to put Baby Yoda in a scenario where he will maybe die if he stays there. He would die, spoilers if you haven't seen it, come on, if he stays in the
at the school,
Jedi
at Luke Skywalker school. Yeah.
And that's what everybody's freaking out about.
Skywalker School of Gifted Younglings.
30 years from now, 20, however many years from now. So they put themselves in a position where they're going to have to explain that side of the story.
I'm not worried about that whatsoever. If there's any team that has convinced me that they know what they're doing, it's Favreau and Filoni. These dudes have their game so tight right now that whatever they are working on, whatever projects they are personally involved with, I think they have that foresight to that Feige foresight, I would call it, where they know the bigger picture, they see the bigger arcs, they see the bigger implications of all the stuff that they're doing, as well as being able to be a part of the episode by episode like guidance of everything that needs to happen. So everything that's happening sounds awesome. I hope it's not overkill. I hope I don't get burnt out on Star Wars stuff
right
by the end of all of this. And who knows if there's going to be an end to all of this, because I felt a little bit of burnout even with the movies, because the fan
so much
reaction,
so soon.
Yeah, so much so soon. The fan reactions were so both directions. You either loved it or you hated it. There was so much stuff going on that I felt like there was just too much of it, and we needed to chill out a little bit. So that's what I'm worried about, that. But as far as the production of it, the overall arcing story, I feel like it's all laid out. In order to lay out a plan like we just saw with Disney Plus and everything, you have to have everything laid out. There's no questions that should be on the table as far as where's the production going to happen, how's this story going to go, what all this other stuff, because that production should already be done by the time you announce a giant project like the Bad Batch or, you know, the Book of Boba Fett. You should already have everything laid out, so you literally just go in the studio and start doing the work. And we all know, we've all been in the production house, so we know that that's how it should be working. So I have complete faith that all of this stuff is already kind of buttoned down. My only hesitance is, like I said, the oversaturation of the market.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good point. But
that's really the only thing that I'm worried about.
Again, going back to that Marvel like formula, that Marvel method, is they were smart to be like, okay, here is an Iron Man movie, here's a Hulk movie,
right?
Here's another Iron Man movie, here's a new thing, it's Thor. Here's a new thing, Captain America. Okay, they all team up. Okay, back to Iron Man. Okay, so that by the time you get back to revisiting some of these characters, it's I mean,
you miss them.
I like how you were saying, Augustine, you're worried about being burnt out, but I know for a fact you're going to be losing your shit when we see this anime Star Wars thing next year. You know what I mean?
I really am.
Because it sounds so different.
Yeah.
It's so smart and cool and so different. And I felt like it was a good combination of familiar stuff and returning seasons and favorites and characters, and also completely new things like Rogue Squadron or the Acolyte, where it's like, wow, nobody, you know.
So that's the other slight thing. Not that it worries me, but the other thing that I'm just like, okay, well, Luke Skywalker was just spoiler alert. Luke Skywalker was just announced in Mando. Are we going to keep seeing these tie-ins to the original trilogy? Like, is everything going to keep being centered?
It's a fair concern.
This thing, because I don't want like the Bad Batch to have that laid, you know, onto it. I want Ahsoka to stand by herself without the guidance of the big three. You know, without the big three being there as like, oh, well, you know, we have a Han appearance and or whatever it is.
But you know, fans are clamoring for like, I want Ahsoka to meet Luke.
I know they are. Know? I know they are. And that's just me, though, because I love and embrace change. Like, I want them to go and off and do their own thing. But judging by the reaction that we saw from Luke, it's massive.
That's been the interesting conversation I feel like a lot of people have been having about the Mandalorian season 2 finale. Is a lot of people are very excited to see Luke in the finale, and then there's a lot of other people who are concerned of like, well, the cool thing about Mandalorian was it was its own thing. It was completely removed from the Skywalker saga. It didn't have anything to do with it. And now, like, we brought in Boba Fett, we brought in Ahsoka Tano, we brought in Luke Skywalker, and even like the concept of the Mandalorian itself, it was like, yeah, you know how cool Boba Fett was? Well, check out Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. But now we've given Boba Fett a show, so it's like, okay, but is Mandalorian still like, is Din Djarin, is he still as cool because now Boba Fett's like a major player in his world? So I think like that's a very valid conversation that I've seen from people of like, how are we balancing this? We just had Luke Skywalker we've had him for the last 40 years. He's in 6 out of the 9 movies. You know, like, do we need to have more of him in live action? And
tough balance.
The way that I kind of like my response to it was like, well, I'm not totally surprised, because Dave Filoni, who came from animation, he worked directly with the major characters from the Star Wars universe. And even Star Wars Rebels itself, while it was original, it was fresh and it was new, it always dipped a toe into that main that main chronology, that main canon of like Luke, Leia, Han. You know, we had Lando on the show, we had Leia on the show, so we have these cameos, but it was still able to do a really great job balancing, maintaining its focus on Ezra, on Hera, on those main characters of that show, and every once in a while we'd have a cameo. I know for me personally, it's like, and I don't know if I should really have this thought, but I treat the animation and the live action kind of differently. Like, to me, because we've never really seen Luke Skywalker in animation or Princess Leia in animation in those shows, it's kind of doing the opposite of what the live action stuff is doing. And I'm like, oh, cool. We get to see what Leia looks like in animation, you know, whereas opposed to the live action stuff. Oh, now we get to see what Ahsoka would look like in live action. That's kind of like how I justify why it's cool to have it in one versus the other.
I see. There was still something new to add to the Ahsoka character, even just by virtue of translating her into live action, is what you're saying, and vice versa.
It's a new, it's literally a new version of her.
I agree. I think it's very interesting that Luke came out in Mando, and people who hate The Last Jedi were like, awesome, this is the Luke I wanted. You know, this completely erases,
it's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. But also, even with the original movies, and because of the limited technology, and even because of the just the different era of filmmaking that we had, of course, Luke isn't going to be the action hero that he is in those movies, even though he is, but he's not going to be that sort of superhero character that he eventually became in like the expanded universe books, comics, and video games. So then when he shows up as that fully formed, like, I am a Jedi and I can defeat these incredibly difficult Luke in his prime, I think it's fascinating that some folks are like, yes, this is all I wanted. And other folks were like, hey, this actually really ties into what The Last Jedi was saying, because if The Last Jedi was
down on it,
right, it doubles it, because but it's interesting how you can kind of have both interpretations. Because The Last Jedi being like, Luke became this mythic character that the galaxy relied on, and then he failed, and then he's like, I can't be the only, you know, Superman has done that so many times. I can't be the only thing here, people. I just fixed the world. Can we leave it for 1 second?
If anything, it puts even more weight on that scene where he recounts the events of his fallout with Ben Solo.
Then again,
it makes it hit harder.
The little kid at the end talking about the myth of Luke Skywalker after he has died, when he like sacrificed himself to fight to distract the First Order. It just goes right back to that. Anyway, what I think, Adam, is your concerns are valid. Augustine's concerns are valid. My concerns are valid. The conversation that's being had about how much are we going to see of the falling back to the original Luke, Leia, Han era and those characters and stuff. I think the thing I'm excited about is the promise of the expanded universe in the 90s and after was the novels, the comic books, telling stories that we never got to see in film, fleshing characters out and filling in those gaps. And I think that since 2015, Disney, Lucasfilm, comic books with Marvel, publishing, all of those brands, all of those companies are working in synchronization, where I think they are doing that. They're putting out novels where I'm like, I read, you know, Star Wars Bloodline with the Princess Leia about 5 years before Force Awakens. And I'm like, this is fantastic. She's a real character. Not that she isn't a great character in the movies, but like, you get brief moments with these characters in these books, in these comics. The Darth Vader comic I read, Dark Sith of the Lord, Dark Lord of the Sith, is mwah.
I mean, he could be a Dark Sith of the Lord too.
Dark Sith of the Lord of the Lord
of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Amen, brother. But like these stories, and even the Poe Dameron comic, I'm like, I love that Poe Dameron. It fleshes out these brief characters that you get to meet for a couple moments. What I'm excited about is, like with the Luke thing, if you look at it and you go, this is just fan service, I get it, because it kind of is, because it's kind of awesome, and they're not taking too much time to explain what the ramifications are, and it's early, and it's just a cameo, and it's quick, and it's CG, it's fan service. But if it can add to and further develop and like add a completely new angle to a character that we may already know, but it like just enhances the whole thing, like again the connection with Last Jedi, which I think is really valid and really interesting, then I'm all for it. And if the Mando, Ahsoka, if this whole era of TV shows, if like, you know, Rogue Squadron, if Taika's Star Wars, if all this stuff can go in and kind of fill in some of the gaps of the before Force Awakens or the after Rise of Skywalker, or in between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Like, honestly, like we were saying, dude, if I trust anybody to make the fact that Palpatine comes back as a clone, which is dumb as shit, make sense, it would be Favreau and Filoni. Do you know what I'm saying? Let these storytellers go back and do what the original expanded universe books were doing, where they kind of took some of those concepts and made it make more sense. And I also was thinking, last thing I want to say, I think it's so great that Favreau played Foggy Nelson in Daredevil. And then that did not stop Marvel from hiring him to be like, yeah, you should direct Iron Man and like start us a whole thing.
Right.
Then Favreau did a voice in a Star Wars cartoon. And then that did not stop Lucasfilm. You know, I'm sure Iron Man and the success of the MCU was a big part of it, but he just, you know, he has these little roles, and then he's able to come back 10 years later or whatever and be like, okay, so here's the thing.
Let me reinvent this whole genre now.
Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Fabs. Oh, and just, you know, I love it. I've been loving the Favreau Filoni Star Wars.
It's a great combo. You know, it's a really, really great combo.
Really happy for those guys.
Yeah. I'm just, once again, I think I need to sit with these decisions a little bit longer and kind of try to connect the dots a little bit more. As much as I loved the Luke Skywalker cameo, what I didn't like about it was that it took away from the emotional moment of the separation of the father and the son. Like, nobody's talking about the amazing acting that my boy Pedro did. I was laughing in the reaction video to keep from crying from the emotion that was going on, the separation of...
We were making jokes.
Yeah, we were making jokes, but I was... Yeah, like, papi, está bien guapo, but like, for real, that was such a deep emotional moment that we had just spent 2 years developing. And that's the thing, nobody's talking about it. And nobody's giving my boy Pedro credit because Luke came on screen, right? So that's what I don't want to happen in the future, because it really... Pedro is the heart of that show. Him and that relationship with Grogu is it. And the only conversations, the only thumbnails I'm seeing on YouTube are Luke with the green lightsaber, you know? Yep. Like Adam smartly put, you know, Pedro crying on our thumbnail, and nobody talked about it, you know? Like, nobody's like, oh yeah, that broke my heart. No, that's not in the conversation at all. So
I've seen
an art conversation,
and I've seen a lot of that on Twitter now. A lot of people are saying like, yeah, I get it that everyone's excited about Luke, but like, yo, this moment between Din Djarin and Grogu was it.
Yeah, that was the heart of the show.
X of the story.
Yeah.
You know,
that was the whole reason we were watching the story for these past 2 years. That was it. And the conversation is not happening, which is, I mean, it shows the power of these original characters in a good way and in a bad way, because it's good that people got this. This episode broke Disney Plus for the first 20 minutes, you know, because everybody was trying to watch it.
Yeah.
And then it broke the internet again, you know, by coming back with the legendary character. But it completely overshadowed this brilliant performance and like this beautiful moment between these two characters. And I don't want that to happen in the future, because it's a huge disservice to everything we just built up to.
Yeah. And, you know, overall, I would say for me, season 2 was a stronger season than season 1.
Same.
But I think the thing that I enjoyed just a little bit more about season 1 was the fact that it very much just stayed in the land of new opportunity, whereas season 2 it bounced back into like, oh, Boba Fett, oh, Ahsoka Tano, oh, Luke Skywalker, you know, these things, which I'm like, I don't dislike it. Like, I think the first episode with the Marshal was awesome, that we got to go to a new city on Tatooine, but we got to see like Cobb Vanth with Boba armor. We got to see Anakin's pod racer. You know, we got to see these like little, like those are the little like dip your toe in type of things. But then Boba Fett just straight up showed up. And like, I don't, the thing with me with Boba Fett is in the original trilogy, he was kind of a nobody.
Yeah.
He showed up for 4 scenes and you were like, that's a dope looking character, but you didn't get to know anything about him. And in the prequel trilogy, he was a 10-year-old child and we really were getting to know his father, not so much him. So like Boba Fett is, I think like Boba Fett and Ahsoka for me are the exception for those specific reasons. With Luke though, like he's a main character, you know, like
I don't
character. Yeah, I don't want to see, Yeah, like I don't want to see Han, I don't want to see Leia or Lando, not even Chewie, and I love Chewbacca.
Bentley wants to see little Ben Solo, little 5-year-old running around.
No, I don't. It goes back to that joke. It goes back to that joke that Patton Oswalt said. He's like, "Oh, you like ice cream? Well, I'm going to show you the milk and the eggs, and like
you're like Angelina Jolie. Well, here's John Voight's balls."
Yeah, exactly.
That's the joke.
Exactly. We don't need it. We don't need it. And I don't want to go back into that territory.
And I feel like they're pretty aware of that.
Yeah.
I would hope so, at least.
I would hope so.
Like, I feel I would hope that they are. And look, I don't think every single like person's opinion should influence a thing, but I think generally you kind of like test the waters. You're like, okay, how do people feel about this? Are they happy about it? Are they not happy about it? And I think it's very fair to look at like, cool, there's a big chunk of the audience that's like, this is amazing and it's incredible and I loved it. But then there is a little piece of the audience, and I'm not saying like people who are just downright crapping on this idea, because I think it's conceptually, like, I think it was cool to have it, but I think there's very much a balance of like level-headed people saying like, look, I think it's really cool that we had this opportunity to do this. I just hope that it doesn't turn into XYZ, which I think is like very valid.
Yeah,
X-Wing?
it's X-Wing Z. It's the bigger implications that now after the amazing rush of everything has kind of worn off.
We had a blast watching it.
That was so much fun.
Wild when Luke Skywalker showed up.
It was absolutely insane.
Is it him? Is it him?
I didn't know I wanted it. I didn't know how cool it would be to see him again in that form. But now we just have to worry about the ramifications of bringing that back. And how is that's going to affect the bigger universe? And was that a good step to take? Or is it going to be very much like, this is the only time we're going to see him? Bye, guys. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I think Adam nailed it on the head when he was talking about, when you're talking about Boba, dude, how that character was kind of a nothing character. And then this new version added so much depth. And then they were able to flesh him out. And then they were able to bring in like the Maori culture. That opportunity to be like, well, hang on a second, what if we did this with this character? That's what's exciting about revisiting some of these characters. The thing, like, I think Adam is right about is that we already know the most about Luke. We already know so much about him.
Exactly.
But if there's one other connective story or element to show us, and it doesn't maybe even need to have Luke in it, because it could still be about universe building, galaxy building, right? It could still be, Mando could have a 5-year time jump, and then throughout the Mando story, the Din story, he could inform us, well, what's going on with the New Republic? What's going on? Has the First Order arisen? What's going on with Moff Giddeon? Is he trying to clone shit? Like, now are they doing Snoke? Now are they getting to this or that or whatever? I'm okay with that if we can kind of get that snapshot of like, how's the rest of the galaxy reeling? The same way with second to last episode, Bill Burr, he's talking about like New Republic, Empire, Rebellion. It doesn't matter to these people. Look at these people. And you're seeing native people and how they just respond to any invaders. That's interesting. That's good story shit. So if you can find some new angle the way they did with Boba, that's why I'm excited about the Boba show, because it's effectively a new character, new territory.
Right.
And almost like a redemption for the very little that character got explored before. But I don't want a Luke Skywalker show. I don't want a Luke Skywalker centric season. I want effectively one other appearance, which is basically just like, you can have your son back. Goodbye. And
he's the best Jedi ever. You can have him back now. Bye.
I've taught him everything I know. So long. That's it. And then I'll be happy. But overall, really excited. And I agree with Adam. My final thoughts are, I think season 2 was way stronger, not just because of the fun, fan servicey stuff, but just like the directing, the writing, the editing, the music. Bronson crushed it. Like,
music was so good.
Music was amazing. We heard dubstep for the first time in the Star Wars universe, and that was great.
So good.
Watching those Dark Troopers power up. I watched the episode a couple more times after that, and watching those droids, or are they droids? I guess they're
Dark Troopers. Yeah,
Dark Troopers power up was just amazing. Like, watching it in full surround sound was just like, oh, this is exciting. But yeah, just to echo my final thoughts, great season. Season 2 blew me away because it stayed the father-son story. I really felt the connection between Grogu and Din, and I just want that to continue. I want to see more of that heartwarming connection, between these two characters. That's really what's going to drive me to watch the next seasons.
Same. I mean, I'm very excited about the Boba Fett show. I think it'll be a really fun time to see Fennec Shand and Boba Fett teaming up together and going on their own missions. I don't know. I guess I was just not expecting to be taking a break from Mandalorian next holiday season. So that'll be interesting to see kind of like how they slot the next season of Mando, if it'll end up being a summer thing or, maybe a spring thing. Who knows? But overall, I think this season was really well done. And it had some incredible moments in it.
Absolutely.
I mean, Jesus, I think the first season for me, the big difference was it was a big learning experience to understand what was happening.
Definitely.
Now that you know the characters, it's just like, how do we up the ante? How do we like make it really fire off? And I feel like every episode was like boom, boom, boom. It was
firing.
It got firing on all cylinders by the end of it, and I really, really enjoyed it. So we'll kind of see like how this story evolves and what the third season will be about and how it potentially involves Rangers of the New Republic, Ahsoka, the Book of Boba Fett. They did talk about that these shows may at some point kind of like Avengers style, like come together, and they might, crescendo.
I think the Defenders, because it's Netflix TV seasons, and then they have that crossover.
Right. So if that happens, that could be a really cool thing, and maybe that's what kind of brings these characters back together. And whether it's like saving Grogu or trying to defeat Moff Giddeon, because Moff Gideon is still alive, and
it's gonna be Thrawn, baby. It's gonna be Thrawn.
It's gotta be. Yeah.
I think there will be an opportunity for Moff Gideon to reunite or to unite with Thrawn. I think that could be a really cool storyline. I do hope we get a little bit more of Moff Gideon and a little bit more of understanding sort of like his motivations and what he's trying to do and why and all that stuff.
Flashbacks and stuff, like how did he get the
exactly
what did he do to get the dark saber and blah blah blah.
I'd be into that.
One more thing before we finish out, I want to say keep all these episodes week to week. It was
absolutely
amazing to sit with every episode, and just the week to week format works so well. So keep
it worked really well
for this. If it had been all released at once on Disney Plus, which they do for some shows, and it's fine, we would have not been talking about Frog Lady, the best character of the season,
or Bill Burr, or like
Frog
Lady, all these smaller characters. We never would have talked about it at all. So week to week,
agreed.
Keep it. Love
agreed.
it.
Agreed. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What you thought about season 2 or volume 2 of The Mandalorian? Are you looking forward to the Book of Boba Fett? How do you think all these shows will end up tying together? And your thoughts on what you think about Luke Skywalker and some of the bigger cameos that maybe could happen again in the future of The Mandalorian. Let us know in the comments below. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe. Check out our Patreon if you want to show some support. And we'll see you in the next one.